So I've seen a lot in a lot of posts about people having questions about systems, or somebody will say to me, Kat, how do you keep it all organized? And so Carrie and I thought it would be a great idea to do systems, checklists, and organization. And like I said, Carrie's not going to be here today, so I'm doing her portion as well. But we thought it would be a good time to do it at the end of the year, because that's when everybody's kind of looking for new things to do, starting new practices. And what a better way to get started in 2024 than with a whole bunch of systems, checklists, and some organization. So most of us have struggled with our systems and organization at some point, whether it was when we were just starting or whatever, and even not necessarily in a real estate career. Those of us that have implemented systems and checklists and organization have found that we're much more productive and efficient, and therefore a better agent for our clients. So a system is the whole process from beginning to end, from the time you have first contact to your presentation when you meet your client, and to your checklist to make sure everything gets done. So let's take a look and then at what we have, and then we will have time to share like things that you've learned throughout the process, or maybe you have a way that you do something that really works for you. We want to hear about that. And if you're struggling with something, we want to be able to give you ideas and help each other grow our businesses. So again, the system is the whole process of the transaction from start to finish. And once I got my systems in place, it made my life so much easier. I don't miss little things. Like, I don't have clients emailing me questions like, well, what are closing costs? We're under contract. What are closing costs? Oh boy. So you get a system set up for everything on the listing side or the buy side. And then you don't miss any steps or deadlines or anything like that. So comment in the chat if you have a listing presentation or a buyer's presentation. And then Adrian will let me know what the majority of your answers are. So we're just going through this quickly. We do have a deep dive into listing presentations that's scheduled for April 24th. And we'll go more into it. But this is your biggest piece of marketing material when you are interviewing for a listing. It's what you're going to take to the presentation and share with your prospective client. There's a list of things that you should highlight in it, but basically it is a marketing piece for you, but you want it to give something of value to your clients. So the one thing of value that I include in my listing presentation is a moving checklist. You can find really good templates on Etsy. Some of them are really cheap. Some of them are expensive, where everything's done for you and you just go and put your graphics and your words into the template in Canva. So between now and April 24th, find a template on Etsy or from any other source that you want and get started on your listing presentation. And then when we come to April 24th, at the end, we'll have time to do just like we're doing here, sharing, collaborating. If you want me or Carrie to take a look at it, we will, just to give you some input, because that's what we're here for. We're not going to, give you our templates or tell you how we do it, because we both got ours from our coaching platform. So we technically can't share them, but we can take a look at yours and comment on them. And prior to getting mine from my coach, I was working on a template that I got from Etsy. And it's the same thing with the buyer's guide. I put a lot more into my buyer's guide in terms of educational information, and not so much marketing, like what am I going to do to sell your home or how do I sell your home? But it's a summary of all the processes that you go through when you are buying a house. And then that way, if you give it to them at the very beginning, you're going to be going to look at houses. You send out that law of real estate agency information, send this with it. And then ask your clients to take a look through it before you take them out to look at houses. And they're going to understand all of these things. And maybe they'll have questions. You never know. Again, you can find a really good template on Etsy. And we have a deep dive on this that's scheduled for April 10th. So in the meantime, get a template and start working on it. Emails. This is probably, I only implemented this maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, where I set up all of my emails as a template. So, have you noticed that you're often sending the same email out to your clients in every transaction? Or what about when you're going to send an offer to the listing agent? Don't you generally say the same thing? So creating email templates for everything saves you so much time. All you have to do is go in and fill in the blanks. So if you're actually do a greeting to your client, where you say, Susie, comma, blah, 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 just put a blank line when you're creating your template and just say, or let's say we're going to submit an offer. That's one I know off the top of my head. And then, so it'll say, the listing agent's name, and then it'll say, as we discussed, attached, please find my client's offer on your property, on your listing at blah, 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 blah. Below is a summary of our offer. Then the next paragraph, whatever, like I always try and give a little something about what my clients loved about the house to tug on the buyer's heartstrings a little bit. Talk about any concessions or lack of concessions, what makes your deal better than another person's deal, and then close it out with, we've given you 24 hours to respond to our offer, or whatever you say. But you generally say, if you think about it, you generally say the same thing over and over and over again. So starting with your next transaction, whether it's a buyer or a seller, your intro email to your buyers, write it out and save it as a template. And do the same thing on the seller side. Every email you send that is a typical thing, then make a template out of it. I had trouble. I had so many templates saved, and some of them are similar. I had trouble discerning which templates were saved for buyers and which were for sellers. So when I named it, I put an B or an S in front of it. So for example, B, so you're buying a home. That might be the subject line where I'm sending them my buyer's guide. Or S, for seller, preparing your home to sell. That might be where I send them a list of things to do to prepare their home to sell. So again, do it for every single email during your next transaction, and then you can go back through them and reword them if you want, and tailor it to your specific needs so that you can use it the next time. So how do you do that? It's actually really, really simple. I only know how to do it in Google, but I'm sure if you Google Outlook or whatever other system you use, you'll be able to find the instructions. But you start just by composing a new email with the appropriate subject line. And don't forget that B or the S, or if you work with investors, an I. The subject is how it's going to be saved in your templates. So make sure it's a subject that you're going to remember. Even if it's not what you want the subject of your email to be, it's going to be easier for you to find it if it's a word that you use regularly. You can change the template when you open it up. Then click on the 3 vertical dots on the send line. So you have the send button on the bottom, go all the way to the end. There's the trash button, and then there's 3 vertical dots at the bottom of your compose box. Click on templates. And if you don't click on it, it goes away. So make sure you click on it. Even though the little side menu pops up, make sure you click on it. And then save your draft as a template. And that's it. You're done. It really is that simple. So start using your template. To start using your template, click the compose button, go down to those 3 vertical dots, select templates, and find the one that you are looking for.
We had a question.
Okay.
Aubrey's asking if we submit offers through skyslope/dotloop, or do we download the documents and create an email?
I download the documents and create the email, and I think that's what Carrie does too. Whatever works for you. I just prefer to do it that way because I have my own digital file, which we'll talk about in a little bit later, for each client. And so I'm going to download them at some point anyway. And what was our response for listing presentation and buyer presentation?
3 of them had a presentation, and then 1 did not, but one of the 3 that did, she needs to update it.
Okay, yeah, you should update it every year if you do have one, or every 6 months. That's what you do during downtimes like this where you're not as busy. Work on your systems, go back through them. Even if you've already been through them 10 times, do it again. You'll always find a typo, or you'll always find you want to reword something, I promise. All right, so any questions on systems like the email templates and your buyer presentation, seller presentation? Any questions on those things? All right, awesome. All right, so with checklists, oh, and Aubrey, I use DigiSign in SkySlope. The checklists, this is a fundamental tool that keeps you on track. And the sooner you get checklists going, the easier it will be for you for each transaction. You won't be racking your brain. You create those email templates, you include sending that email in your checklist, and it's just going to make everything so much easier for you. You're going to be more efficient, and it's going to keep you more organized. So let's take a quick look at what should go into your checklists. The template Tuesday, I uploaded a partial of my open house checklist. So that gives you some ideas of what my open house checklist looks like. Although I don't have it in a template, I just created it in a Word document, which you can do. So having a checklist guarantees that you don't miss a single step in your activities or your transactions. You can create it in an Excel spreadsheet or a Canva graphic, or even just a simple checklist with a table in a Word document, or you don't even have to use a table. Whatever works for you, then that's what you should use. And I have a checklist for, I don't really use it in Ohio, but when I was in Washington, our contracts are like 25 pages minimum in Washington state. So I have a checklist for all of the addenda that may be required in a transaction. And so that's when I started really doing my checklists and found about how much easier it made it. And then I did my open house one, and then it just kind of morphed from there. So on a buyer checklist, again, start with making your checklist for your very next transaction. Write down every single thing that you do on just a plain old piece of paper, and then sit down and create a checklist to use for your future transaction. So some areas to consider adding, like subheadings for your buyer's checklist, would include, what do you do when you first contact them? Are there emails that you send? For example, sending out your law of real estate agency and your buyer's guide. Then your buyer's agency agreement. What steps do you take to get it signed? What are the house hunting things that you're going to do? So you're going to run a search. You're going to send them to your client. You're going to, review them with your client. Preparing the offer, the steps that you do. This is where you can move like that. I told you the checklist I had for Washington State. I moved that into my Excel spreadsheet checklist. And then, of course, I have a different one for Ohio because our contract is one document. And then inspections. So things like that would go, oh, sorry, I skipped one. Under contract. Once you're under contract, what do you need to do? What emails do you send to your client? What steps do you take once you're under contract? Personally, I send a copy of the contract to all of the professionals involved, and it goes in one email, and everybody has everybody else's contact information. So that's something that goes on, goes under my under contract. Inspections. What do you do to prepare your client for the inspection? What do you do for the inspection? A lot of times, if it's in the morning, I bring my inspector coffee. So I actually have get coffee ? On my checklist. It's that you get that much into the minutia, because it keeps you being the best that you can be. Preparing for closing. What steps do you take to prepare for closing? Scheduling the closing. Are you going to attend? Is someone else going to attend? Preparing your client for closing, what your client needs to know. What emails are you going to send? What do you do after closing? Do you follow up with your client like 30, 60, 90 days? Do you market to the neighborhood that you just sold the house in? Put all of those steps in your buyer's checklist. Any questions on that? Okie dokie. Seller checklist is the same thing. Start it with your very next transaction. What do you do after they initially contact you? What are your steps that you go through to prepare your listing presentation? What do you do to prepare to follow up from your listing presentation? Let's say they didn't hire you on the spot. What steps are you going to take to follow up? Preparing the home to list. Do you send your client a checklist of what they need to look at in preparation to sell their home? Now, what do you do? The listing is now active. What do you do? Preparing to list would also be things as simple as entering it into the MLS. Did you check the box to syndicate? Things like that, just to make sure that you've gone through everything. There was, I can't remember specifically now, but there was a step that I kept missing when I first started creating my checklists. And it was just something really silly and minute, but I still put it in my checklist because I kept forgetting it. What do you do once preparing for your open house? What do you do to prepare your open house? Oh, it's open hose. How funny. Anyway, is that even how you spell hose? I don't know. So take your open house checklist and move it into your now seller checklist. Under contract, what do you do? What emails do you send to your client? What steps do you take once your listing is under contract? How can you prepare your sellers for the inspection? What steps do they need to take on their end for inspection? Preparing for closing. What do they need to expect? What are they going to do? Making the appointment. What do they need to bring? That kind of stuff. Then same thing, closing and post-closing. And a lot of stuff, obviously, you're preparing for closing, and post-closing. Those are pretty much going to be the same for buyer and seller, and potentially even same with initial contact. So any questions on seller checklists? Okay. So next one is open house. So these are just more some things to consider when you are preparing your checklist. So you're going to schedule the date and time, double check and make sure it's right with everything that you've posted. Make sure it aligns with your marketing plan. Make sure the property is ready. I always show up at least an hour before an open house and walk through. I try to actually go the day before, honestly, when I go and put out my signs. But I make sure it's clean. I have walked into vacant houses that there were dirty fingerprints on the light switches, on the doors, the baseboards hadn't been wiped down. The house didn't even smell clean. So thank goodness I went the night before, because I showed up to that one 2 hours early with my cleaning supplies. Signage, where are you going to place your signs? The steps that you go through to do that. Now, my open house checklist is honestly just in a Word document. I have not merged it into my Excel spreadsheet. So mine is just simple, is, whatever that, put out signs. It's just that simple with a little line before it to check it off. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Your marketing materials, prepare them and bring them. I don't know about you guys, but I have forgotten my marketing materials more than once and had to make an emergency call to my husband to please bring them to me, and pray that he gets there on time. So just having that little box checked and everything by the door the morning before or the night before, it just works out better. So and if you're gonna have any brochures or flyers or other marketing materials, make sure they're all done and ready. What are you going to serve for refreshments? So on my checklist that I posted on Tuesday, you saw it's probably said donuts or chips, because in the mornings I do donuts and coffee, and sometimes I'll do more. If it's my listing, I do a lot more. I've gone in so far as for luxury listings to have a little mini breakfast buffet of finger foods. So it just depends on the listing, and it depends on the home and all of that stuff. But what are you going to bring? In the afternoon, I do chips and mini cans of soda. If it's my listing, I'll get a foot-long Subway sandwiches and cut them in fourths. And I ask them to pick it up on their way out so that they're not dropping food throughout the house.
Karen
so,
was saying,
huh?
Karen was saying that she has an open house bag that she just adds specific items to.
Yes, I have an open house basket that have things in it that I use for every open house. My booties, napkins, my business cards. I have a cute little business card thing that I put out, my basket for my pens, everything that goes to every single open house is in that basket. And then I also have another box full, I call them buckets, but the totes, full of basic staging stuff that I can go through real quick before I leave, put it in another tote with all the rest of my stuff, like my coffee pot and all that stuff, or my basket for my chips. And if I know I need to bring some things like for the kitchen, I'll throw those in the bucket. Contact information, make sure you have enough business cards. And also too, make sure that your contact information is on all of your marketing materials. Some MLSs, when you print out the listing, it will ask if you want to include your contact information. I don't do that. I insert a graphic of my business card on it. So, there's different ways that you can do things, but just make sure your contact information is on every single piece of marketing material you're going to give. I have a property checklist that gives you the option, or property comparison. It gives you five options for 5 different houses, and you can compare everything on it and make your own notes. That has a graphic of my business card on it too. So everything should be branded to you. On-site logistics, make sure you have a welcome station near the entrance. I don't necessarily do it near the entrance. I want them to walk in and kind of be looking around and be distracted when they hit my welcoming station, because then they're more likely to sign in, enter to win my giveaway, grab things that are there, and kind of move on. Bring copies of the property details, floor plans, any other relevant documents for interested buyers. I know some people, well, Chicago Title does a property, what do they call it? A property binder, but they print off everything for you. Information about the schools, information about the properties. It's like $10 or something like that. Anything you could desire on that home that's available, they will print it off for you and put it in a binder. I used to use those at my listings, but I don't anymore. I just do it myself. I don't print off school information. Well, I guess I do sometimes. If the schools are good, I print off information from great schools, but you have to be careful about that because of the Civil Rights Act. Safety measures. I carry, so I'm always armed at open houses, but make sure that you know all of your doors, that you know where the easiest out is. Make sure everything is well lit. There's no trip hazards for people that are coming through and touring the home. If you have to move things, do it. I did one open house where the sellers left their checkbook on the top of their desk, like face up. It wasn't even buried under stuff. I didn't touch it. I just periodically checked to make sure that it was still there. And then a visitor sign-in sheet to get their names and contact information. Somebody asked me just today, or I saw it on a post somewhere today, do you use a paper sign-in sheet? So I used to use a paper sign-in sheet. And I added are you working with an agent? I added to ask them for their agent's name, because if they're not working with an agent, they're not going to know their agent's name. So if they skip that part, they probably don't have an agent. But it also, if they say, well, why do you need my agent's name? You say, well, because I'd like to follow up with them about your thoughts. So then they think you're not going to follow up with them personally. So I am going to start doing a digital one. If you watch our open houses with pizzazz meeting, I am totally changing up how I do my open houses, including even the way I approach people that are coming in and the way I close it out when they leave. And part of that is using a digital sign-in sheet. Technology. I have Verizon for my cellular service, and I have a Jetpack. It is a wireless internet access that, as long as you have cell service, you get internet access. So that's something I always bring with me to open houses. Make sure your tablets are charged and that everything is in working order before you walk out the door. Do it the night before so you're not rushing. I'm famous for last minute stuff. Don't be like me.
Can you talk more about the property comparison sheet?
Oh, yeah. I can post it in the group. I got it from Breakthrough Broker. And let me see, come back to that question when we're done, and I'll pull it up and show you guys.
Okay.
So during the open house, make sure you greet your visitors, introduce yourself. I always ask, do you want to come in or not? Make sure you have your property tour stuff, collect your feedback, point them to the marketing materials, networking, stuff like that. Any questions about open houses? My checklist, this was Carrie's portion. My checklist primarily focuses on what I do to get ready to walk out the door for an open house. Any questions? Okay. Oh, she has one more slide. Follow up. So if this is what you do, add to your checklist, thank you emails sent out, feedback analysis, follow-up calls, and market updates. All right. Checklist summary. So checklists are indispensable. They're going to make sure that you are consistent, and it's in the long run, it's going to free up your time. So start at the beginning of your next transaction for everything and go from there. Whether it's your sellers or your buyers, or you're in the middle of a transaction, but you're going to do an open house, start writing up your open house checklist. Because we all know we can learn everything on the planet, but if we don't implement what we learn, it's never going to help us. All right. Organization. I get this question all the time, which is why we included it in our presentation. It is also all encompassing. If you're not organized, you can miss a deadline, forget about a client, or just completely lose track of a transaction if you're that busy. Just like systems and checklists, getting organized will help you become more efficient and give you more time to work on what's really important, which is generating more leads. All right, it starts with you, and everybody's going to have something that works different for them. I have ADHD, so organization is what keeps me going. If I'm disorganized, equals chaos means I just shut down and don't do anything. Literally, like I'll just say, oh, I don't want to work today, and I'll watch TV all day because it's so overwhelming to me. I don't know where to start. So I start with the files on my computer for organization, and I'm going to share some screenshots as examples as we go through the following pages. So this is my directory in my computer, and you'll see that I have contracts. That's where all my clients go. That's my coaching stuff. I have appraiser packets that I've prepared. That's something I offer to my buyers and sellers. I have my branding stuff that's separate. I have business documents. I have everything separated out. This is like half of my subfolders in my directory. It goes through T. So I have like training stuff. I have it separated out. Like there's my coaching, and then over here I have Tom Ferry stuff. Over here I have Nolly Williams stuff. I have Glover U stuff, because I'm going to remember who presented it to me, but I might not remember the other stuff. And so like my for buyers, for renters, for sellers, those are things that I would typically send to them for marketing materials. Sorry about that. Or checklists, things like that. So I have everything. So here's an example of what it looks like in my contracts. I have each person saved alphabetically, and that's not Carrie from Collaborating Agents. That's Carrie from California, because I don't have her last name. We are not under contract yet. But everybody else here, and in the parentheses is their referral. So this is an inner office referral. This lead I got from Facebook. This lead I got from Nextdoor. Everybody else is organic. And so I just keep it all like that. And then at the end, I have closed files for every single year. I just move everybody into closed files. Anybody that I open a file for and I don't convert, I have a file folder called prospects, and I just put an X in front of their name and then move it into the prospects folder. I do the same one twice. Oh no. All right, wait, there it is. Okay. So this is what my file looks like inside each client folder. So I name the documents the same thing every time. See, there's my buyer checklist. I name the documents the same thing every time, and I put the client's last name at the end, because every client is going to have a property disclosure. So whether it says, you know, all the details about the disclosures, or it says, sorry, the person didn't live here, they don't have any disclosures, they're not required. So if I know I'm going back and I'm searching for property disclosures for Vincent Mitchell, I'm just going to go in and search disclosures Mitchell, and it's going to pop up. So again, everything is saved under the same name for every single client. And this down here, listing Freeburg, that's the name of that's the street name on the property. And then even within each folder, I have subfolders so that things are easier to find. This is my social media folder. So I have things like, I have posts about buyer facts, buyer tips. So you're scrolling through Facebook and you see something you want to use later, save it, and save it under the topic that it's going to go under. See, in there I have posts from Christina Shore, keeping current matters shareables. I have all of my market update posts. And then these are from Curated Social, and these are from Coffee and Contracts. So I am 100% digital, and I have been since about a year into being a real estate agent. Even my notes are saved electronically. Those of you that have been to conferences or seminars with me, I carry a Remarkable tablet. Everything is in my Remarkable tablet, and everything is organized by subfile as well. And that's where I keep all my notes for my client. I can easily convert it to a PDF when I'm done and move them right into my client file and close out the file. So I am completely paperless. I was self-employed in the legal field before, so I dealt with a lot of paper, and I transitioned about 10 years ago into being completely digital. So I don't have a paper contract of my file, a paper file for the contract. Some people still do. And most people have a transaction management system through their brokerage and they upload everything there, but you're still legally required to keep a copy of all of your documents on top of the brokerage keeping them in your transaction management system. So everything is just saved electronically for me. When I did do paper, because I know a lot of people still want to do paper, I used a different colored folder for each transaction. I had the client name and property address label on each file. On the left side, under two-prong tabs, were my notes, and then the contracts documents were to the right. And then I had a staggered rack where I kept them in alphabetical order so I could easily see each name. Is there something that you guys need help organizing that we haven't talked about yet? I want you guys to put that in the chat, and we will definitely come back to it. But it just coming back to that legal requirement to keep a copy of your file. For how long it varies state by state. In Washington, it's 7 years. In Ohio, it's 3 years. But I keep it forever because it's digital. It's never going to go away. And so I'm covering my own butt on top of all that. But it just makes it so much easier to do that. I still have like 4 Pendaflex files full of closed files from when I first became an agent. This year, I finally get to start taking them away because they were in Washington. And so that 7 years is lapsing. Actually, it lapsed in April. No, it lapses in April. So I'll finally be able to dump those. But me being me, I'll probably scan them and put them in their file. All right.
So you said that you had like different color folders for different, like, I guess, areas of the transaction that you're in, or different clients?
No, just different colors for different clients because it's easier to remember the color. And so like if I know that the Smith file is green, I'm going to look for green files to find the Smith file, that kind of thing.
So like people who are under contract be green, people who are prospect be red, or just
nope,
different
it's just
color?
yeah, it's just different color. So I just get a box. I got a box of manila folders that were different colors, and that's what I use.
Okay.
All right. So we've done a presentation on time blocking, but it's another thing that you can do to keep yourself organized. Early on, we did a presentation on time blocking before we were recording everything, but the slides are updated the slides are included in the files tab in the group. And then we did one, what if time blocking doesn't work? Because time blocking doesn't work for Carrie. So we did one on that, and it's recorded and the slides are available in the files. I can't stress enough how important time blocking is in your production. Whether you use Google Calendar or something else or a paper calendar, it's the #1 key to being organized. Block off everything in a general way on paper, and then plot out. And this is in the time blocking. There's, I don't know if it's under bonus material or attached to the slides, but there are forms that you can just print off and use to fill out and start doing this. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But you should block off everything in a general way on paper, and then you'll know or be reminded until you memorize it of what to do at each time of the day. So here's an example. I know it's kind of hard to read, but this was in our time blocking presentation. So everything in purple is personal. This is a Google Calendar in case you don't use a Google Calendar. Some people in the morning drop off their kids for school, do devotional or breakfast time. I call it social media stalking when I'm just going through all the pages and commenting on people's stuff. Do client follow-up, check with transaction coordinator on contracts, take someone to lunch. Don't really do this. Don't really do that every day. It's just something to be in there to remind you. Lead generation, anything business related, pick up the kids from school, show houses, then there's football practice, dinner with family always. This has always been a priority for me. I don't care if we grab something at McDonald's and eat it in 10 minutes. We have dinner together, no matter what that looks like. And then 7 to 9, show more houses if needed. And then, of course, over here, it should also say show houses in the afternoon or around those football game schedules. And here's an example of what my schedule looked like this week so far. So you can see it actually put into action. It's not a typical schedule for me. Usually there's a lunch or a coffee date once or twice a week, but you get the idea. Here's my family day. It's church, in-laws, family day, my husband's company Christmas party. I also, in orange, I have all the classes that I want to attend. And the asterisks there on this one are because it's one I really, really wanted to attend, but I had to do this presentation, so I'll watch the video. Then also, you know, you'll see here, Brittany run property search. I have those reminders in my phone as well. Here I have all my showing appointments for yesterday, that kind of stuff. And then up here, that's my cleaning schedule. I have birthdays. I have past client birthdays in yellow and family birthdays in blue. I have gray for paying my bills and when things are due. My whole life, including reminders about doing a story, just life, is in my phone. And even check-in. This is a personal check-in with a fellow agent who had brain surgery on Monday. You know, there's another one in here too that, oh, Brittany, check in even if no listings. This client is very, very, very picky and doesn't want me to send her any listings that do not check all of her boxes. I have yet to send her a listing that checks all of her boxes. She's just not in the right price point. But I do check in with her on Fridays to let her know, hey, didn't find any houses. So it's just that reminder. And then at EXP, we have like 50 plus hours of training every week, live training. And so I put in a reminder for me here to check the EXP training schedule for next week. And then I'll put any classes that I want to do in orange so that they're there if I have free time or if I want to schedule around it. And look, the Bengals game's down there. We play Pittsburgh at 4:30. So everything. See, taxes, it's a reminder to me to get my taxes done every day. Check rev share. That's a reminder to me to go in. We get rev share from people that we bring to EXP. So it's a reminder for me once a month to go in and check and see what my rev share check amount is going to be. They usually drop like the 22nd. So I always go in and check a couple days early to see what it's going to be. All right. So a paper planner works just as well as using a digital one, especially if paper is what works for you. You can time block in a paper planner too. I just do it in pencil to start unless it's a confirmed appointment, and then I'll put it in pen, or is what I did. And I would do color coding. Again, that's my ADHD thing. So if it was just a networking lunch, it would be one color. If it was taking clients to look at properties, it was another color. If it was a buyer or seller presentation, it's in another color. Or you can just use different color highlighters, but I find that the highlighters bleed through whiteout tape. So I just would use different color pens. Because, you know, everything is fluid in real estate. You can have a schedule to look at a house and it goes under contract and then you got to delete it out of your calendar. Carrie and I both loved the Organize Agent as a planner. If you look at the bonus material from the business planning workshop, there should be photos of what the inside of the planner looks like. It is a full size 8.5 by 11 planner, so it's not very easy to carry with you, but we love it because it has so many different other options. It has options for event planning, social media planning. It even has a social media calendar. It has expense tracking, profit tracking. It has everything in it for each month. And the website too, which you just have to Google the Organized Agent Planner. Their website also has the video. All right, planning social media is another key to staying organized. And I don't just mean deciding what you're going to do. I mean actually scheduling it out. Of course, plan it out on paper for the month. It's an amazing idea for your personal and your business pages. But to free up time and stress over what you're going to post and when, schedule it. On your business page is the only way you can schedule it. Use Meta to do this. And don't forget your 80-20 rule. On my business page, it's 80% business, 20% personal. On my personal page, it's the other way around. Scheduling my posts in Meta has been huge. I didn't have time to do it on Monday because I was doing other things. So now this week I'm playing catch up, trying to post every single day. What am I going to post? When am I going to post? So it's not consistent. And of course, consistency is key with social media. So typically I sit down and do it Monday morning and then I forget about it. So every day I include some sort of engagement post, even though it's the same people engaging and mostly from my SOI, it's still getting the hits and the comments. And of course you respond to everything, which helps the algorithm. So the engagement posts are silly stuff like if I wasn't named Katrina, what do I look like my name would be? Occasionally it's a real estate engagement question, but they're generally just silly stuff. And then I have one real estate specific thing that I post also. And then of course, if something comes up during the day that I want to share, I just share it. I don't wait and schedule it later. Getting started using Meta might be a little bit intimidating, but it really is super easy and it's so helpful. Just go to your business page, click on the Meta Business Suite in your business page and select Planner. It actually kind of looks like a calendar. And then click the schedule pull down menu and go from there. And if you set it up right, it cross posts to Instagram every single time. So you don't have to worry about posting to Instagram either. Super, super easy. So here's what my planner from last week looked like. Like I said, admittedly, I did not do it this week, so it looks a little crazy, but you can see too, like I didn't plan out my elf on the shelf help. I was just doing it kind of each night. So it shares everything that you've posted, whether you scheduled it or not. And so that's what it looks like when you're done. And it also, if you're running any ad campaigns, it also keeps track of these here. So, and if you click on that, it will take you to your ad campaign to look at your statistics and all of that stuff. So business or Meta Business Suite is amazing. And there are so many functions in it. I don't even know how to completely use it, but I'm trying to learn. So being consistent with brand and color in your social media posts, super important because like for me, hot pink is one of my brand colors. So if someone's scrolling through social media and they see something in hot pink, they might go, oh, let's see what Kat had to say and go back and take a look. Typically on Mondays, I always do something personal on Mondays. It helps build that KLT, the know, like, and trust factor. On Tuesdays, I try to do a buyer post. On Wednesdays, a blog post. Thursdays, seller. And Friday, I share a luxury listing so that we can all dream and I hit the luxury client aspect of my sphere, of my niche. I don't schedule posts on the weekend unless it's a big national day. If I come up with something that I want to share, I'll share it, but it's generally personal on the weekends. All right. Any questions on social media and scheduling it? All right. So of course, utilizing your CRM to its maximum potential is also a huge help in staying organized. There's so many out there, I couldn't even begin to touch on them, but know what you use, know its capabilities and start using it. We have KV Core and I admittedly do not use all of its features because it is overwhelming and intimidating, honestly. But it's on my list for 2024 to learn it and utilize it to its maximum potential. So I'm sure whatever CRM you're using, that the web page has training videos, or maybe your brokerage has some training information on it, but utilize it. I mean, you may not be directly paying for it if your brokerage provides it, but still learn how to use it.